The world of RuneScape is a vast and complex one. There are many places to explore and many challenges to face. As a new player, there would surely be too much content to learn before one could make a Let's Play, right? That's me, Anton9102. I'm a new player in RuneScape, and I intend to document my journey with the goal to max my player stats as well as conquer the lands that I find myself in. Follow me in my quest through these vast lands in my RuneScape Let's Play. Once I claimed my membership, I immediately went to complete a quest which would give me access to the Dwarf Cannon, but more importantly, it gave me access to smithing cannonballs, which is a money-making method that requires less effort than crafting jewelry and also gives more GP per hour. I then completed a few more quests around the area. I then talked to the first Slayer Master I could find, Vanaka, and went to do my first task, Moss Giants. And it was honestly very fun. I enjoyed fighting Hill Giants with no incentive. Now that I could get better drops from Moss Giants, as well as progress Slayer, I was having a great time. While fighting Moss Giants, I reached level 50 magic, which, if you remember from the last video, is one of the recommendations for fighting Ober. And this is where I make my first big investment into gear. I bought a Mystic Robe Bottom, Mystic Boots, a Mystic Hat, Mystic Gloves, a Mystic Robe Top, a Mystic Water Staff, which I later learned provides no benefit for the purpose of magic casting compared to its non-mystic counterpart, Nature Runes for Snare, some Swordfish as my food source, Earth Runes, also for Snare, and finally some Death and Air Runes to cast Water Blast, the highest level offensive spell available to me. This all added up to around 280,000 GP. I then finished training my prayer to 40 by using a lit gilded altar in a player-owned house, and I felt more powerful than ever. I was ready to fight Ober. But, from the beginning, it wasn't looking good for me. I didn't have my staff set to cast Wind Blast, so I had to manually cast it. Didn't have my stamina toggled on. Tried to set my autocast as I slowly attempted to walk away from Ober, cancelled one of my snares, and aggressively attempted to attack Ober by left-clicking, which my attack settings didn't allow. After a small break to recollect my thoughts, I went back to fighting Ober. There were a few close calls, but in the end, I was victorious. The rest of the fights were just as sloppy, but they all ended in Ober dying. This was a lot of fun, but as I was fighting Ober, I kept thinking about my money situation. Sure, I could smith cannonballs and get enough GP to get another bond, but I wanted to go beyond that. I wanted not one, but 2 bonds, and maybe some additional GP on top. So, I set the arbitrary goal of 10 million GP. However, I didn't know how I would do it. This is when I remembered hearing of a high GP per hour method that may be within my reach, smithing bars at the blast furnace. Smithing at the blast furnace is a high effort task, but it would pay off, with the high end of the wiki estimation nearing 800,000 GP per hour. And with the requirements not seeming too far out of reach, I got to work on a list of what I would need to do in order to be able to efficiently use the blast furnace to make GP. When making this list, I wanted to take as few shortcuts to my goal as I could. I wanted this mission not only to give me a lot of coins, I also wanted it to complete quests and obtain items to make future adventures easier. So, if I could do something along the way to help me later, I would try to do it. Once I was done with my list, I started right away with questing for agility experience, with a small intermission of fletching training, with the goal of getting the Graceful set, which would both increase my questing speed, as well as make the blast furnace runs more efficient. I also started putting some of the XP lamps I got from the quests on runecrafting to skip the early levels. Once I got to Canifis, I continued to run the rooftop course until I collected the 260 Marks of Grace necessary for the Graceful set. It was tough. My next 17 hours of RuneScape gameplay were dedicated to collecting Marks of Grace. It was a long task to complete, especially so early into my account, but I stuck to completing it first, and, after a lot of parkour, I had acquired 260 Marks of Grace. I went straight to the Rogue's Den and purchased my Graceful set. I then continued down the list by completing Plague City, Biohazard, Haziel Cult, and Fight Arena. I quickly got 33 construction and then returned to questing with completing Tower of Life, the Queen of Thieves, Tribal Totem, Creature of Frankenstein, another skilling intermission going all the way to 50 fire making, then completing the Giant Dwarf, the Lost Tribe, Death to the Dorgeshuun, the Golem, the Feud, Jungle Potion, the Dig Site, and finally, another slice of ham. Now that my mining level was high enough, I could finally start working directly for one of my goals, the coal bag. This item takes up one inventory slot but stores 27 pieces of coal. That means, instead of smithing 14 steel bars per inventory, I would be able to smith 27 per inventory, which, as you can imagine, is quite a big upgrade. Now, the process of obtaining it. In order to obtain the coal bag, I would need to mine pay dirt in the Motherlode mine, put that pay dirt through a hopper to be sifted, and then that pay dirt would be deposited into a sack, which can hold 84 items, or 3 inventories of pay dirt. I would then retrieve the items, bank them, and repeat. This pay dirt can be revealed to be various different ores, with different ores able to be found with higher mining level. But the important item that I can find by sifting pay dirt is the gold nugget, which has a static chance to be found at all mining levels. Gold nuggets can be traded to Prospector Percy for various items, including a trade of 100 gold nuggets for a coal bag. This wouldn't be a very difficult task. However, Percy also sells a Prospector Kit, a set of 4 pieces that give a boost to mining XP, as well as an additional bonus if you wear the entire set. On top of that, this set is used in the Falador Hard Diary as well as the Master Clue Scroll step. It seemed inevitable that I would have to get this outfit, so I opted for getting it now. This would mean that instead of around 12 hours of mining, I would need to spend near 34 hours. But with the cheery Motherlode mine music and the dwarves all around professing their excitement for pay dirt, I was ready. After a long while of mining, I hit level 61 mining. This meant I could use the Dragon Pickaxe. The pickaxe is incredibly expensive, around 5 million GP, but I had just enough GP from when I smithed cannonballs. I was hesitant to buy it. This would be the most expensive item I had bought to date, but I figured the time saved would be incredibly valuable, and I shouldn't actually lose too much GP as I could sell the pickaxe when I was done. So, I made the decision and purchased the pickaxe, and I ran into a bit of an issue. I could still use the pickaxe, I just couldn't equip it. But that meant that I was only depositing 27 ore per inventory instead of 28. So I did the only logical thing and started grinding towards level 60 attack so I could equip the pickaxe. I would complete a Slayer task, turn it in, and get a new one. I got a medium clue scroll early on and completed that, but got very little. The Slayer tasks seemed to average around 20,000 XP for me. I needed around 200,000 XP, so it wouldn't take too long to reach my goal. This is where I realized I had another issue. The clock was ticking. My membership only had around 5 days left. I would need to wrap up the preparations for the blast furnace soon, so I would still have time to actually make the 10 million GP. I still had a lot of attack XP to grind out, so I decided I would do 2 quests, the Waterfall quest and Monkey Madness 1. This wasn't particularly efficient if I was just considering attack XP, but these were quests I would need to do eventually, so I thought I might as well do them while I needed the XP. While I had some issues in Monkey Madness, it all went fairly smoothly. I claimed my XP reward and went back to completing my Slayer tasks. And then, only 400 XP away from my goal, I fought the final enemy needed to hit level 60 attack. I had reached it. I could now equip the Dragon Pickaxe and get back to mining for the Prospector Kit and the coal bag. In preparation for when I could use the blast furnace, while I was mining pay dirt, I added all of the different ores I could smelt to my spreadsheet. This would allow me to capitalize off of any fluctuating prices. And now, back to just mining. And finally, all of the work I had put in had finally come together with me achieving the coal bag. After that, I quickly achieved the Falador Diary step that required the Prospector Kit, went to get the ice gloves needed from the Ice Queen, and then went to the Grand Exchange to purchase all of the materials necessary to start my first run of the blast furnace. The blast furnace was just as intense as I thought it would be. There were a lot of things that I needed to do quickly, precisely, and I would need to do it for a while. And so, my next 10 hours of gameplay was a haze of clicking, loud blast furnace noises, and the distant echo of a YouTube video.
Completed.
But, at the end of it, it was all worth it. I had achieved the 10 million GP I had originally set out to complete. I had even gone a bit past it. But there was a small issue. 10 million wasn't enough anymore. Not for my plan anyway. The original plan was to buy 2 bonds and have about $1 million in cash left over for whatever I may need it for. The goal of 10 million was set when the price of a bond was around 4.5 million. The price of a bond was now around 5 million. With 10 million GP, I might not even have enough for the bonds. So, I raised the bar. 15 million was the next goal. It wouldn't be too difficult, just about 10 more hours of blast furnace work. With my membership time dwindling, I started immediately. After 3 more hours of work, I had gotten 2 million more GP, and, with it becoming late, I headed to bed. The next day, I was surprised when I logged into RuneScape. I was no longer a member. I miscalculated something, and so I thought I had more time to reach the 15 million cash stack. But honestly, I got over it quickly. Perhaps I wouldn't be able to see the 15 million just yet, but I still achieved the green cash stack, which was more important to me. I still wanted to get the extra money, so I bought 2 bonds, redeemed them both for the extra day, and went back to the blast furnace for, hopefully, the last time in a long while. And, this time, it was oddly peaceful. I had already achieved 10 million, which meant I had 29 days of membership. Around me the blast furnace was just the same as it was before, just as loud, and with the video echoing in the distance. But, for me, the experience changed from the intense task it was before to a peaceful one. I ended up going a little past my goal. I got 7 million extra in GP. I was now ready to continue my journey. I had completed this goal. I wonder what adventures Gielinor holds for the future.